very helpful practice because you are doing two things simultaneously. You're practicing the question and you're also enhancing your vocabulary when you are looking for the meaning. So that way you get an idea of a lot of questions and you're revising your vocabulary words as well. So that is a good practice, and sometimes what I would suggest is that you come up with your own questions. You use two words and come up with your own question statements. This is also a helpful practice. So this is for GMAT, sentence correction, and sentence completion is for GRE. Let's move on and see what kind of questions do we get in both the sections. This is a sample question, just to give you an overall view of what kind of a question is going to be there in a sentence correction GMAT section. Because women buy approximately 80% of ties sold in the United States, they are often displayed near perfume or women's clothing departments. Now this underlined portion is always going to be the same as option A. So as you can see, option A is exactly the same as the underlined part of the question. So you don't need to even read it. Don't waste your time looking at option A because this is always the original questions statement, a part of the question statement. Then B, ties are often being displayed. Then C, the displaying of ties is often. D, ties are often displayed. E, they often can be found. What do you think is the right answer to this question? Because this is testing your grammatical skill, how you see a sentence and how you correct the usage of the words within the sentence. So could you make a guess? What is the right answer? You said? You think it's D. Ties are often displayed. Anyone else? E. Okay, they often can be found. This side? Okay, D. Ties are often displayed. So we have a variety of answers. Let's see which is the right one. It's D. Ties are often displayed. Can somebody give me a reason why D is the right answer? Exactly. Exactly. She's absolutely right. What's your name? Saima is absolutely right. When you read the question statement, it says because women buy approximately 80% of ties sold in the United States, they are often displayed. Are they talking about the display of the women or of the ties? So this is what confuses you, and this is the pronoun they that we need to replace. So we need to add the word either women or ties for which the rest of the statement is completed. So D is going to be the right answer because it is specifying that we are talking about the noun ties. So you need to keep the relationship of the noun and the pronoun that is following it within the sentence. This is really important. So ties are often displayed is the right answer. It can't be E because they often can be found. Again, they is being used. We don't know which noun is the pronoun they referring back to. And for C, the displaying of ties is often, again, this is not the right formation of the sentence because it is not relevant to the overall structure of the sentence previous part before the underlined part. All right, we'll be looking at more examples to have a clearer idea of how we are going to go about this section of the GMAT test. B, ties are often being displayed. If you read the sentence, because women buy approximately 80% of ties sold in the United States, ties are often being displayed near this being displayed. Being, we don't need this word being over here. It is an unnecessary word and it spoils the overall structure of the sentence. It makes it redundant. Because women buy approximately 80% of ties sold in the United States, they're often being displayed. We don't need to use the word being over here because this is something that the women are doing every now and then. It's not happening, it's not in the present context, right? So it's in the present continuous context, so you need to remove being, okay? So that is why ties are often displayed. And also the word displayed, it actually relates with the first part of the sentence because women buy approximately 80% of ties sold in the United States. So ties are often being displayed. Being is the word that we do not need here. A, they're often displayed. Again, they is the word that we are not supposed to be using as a pronoun in the second part. Should we move on? Okay. Now we'll be looking at 7 grammar rules to help you crack the GMAT sentence correction. Before we move on, I would like you guys to understand this, that be it, because for LUMS you have to appear for the LGAT, and for NTS prepares you for the GAT, and you have GMAT and GRE. There are a variety of standardized tests. All of these tips that we are going to go through, I'm going to make you take a look at, you need to remember that each of these tips would apply to a variety of questions. Not one tip would apply to any particular question. There might be a couple of tips that might come in handy for a particular question. So just keep this in mind, that whenever you're doing a question, there are a lot of ways of looking at it. One person may not be looking at a question like the other person does. Just make sure that the tips that you're going to be taking down today, you're applying them in your questions. Be it a single tip, be it more than one. Like in the previous session, we were using more than one tip for doing a particular question, right? So the variety of questions obviously keeps on changing, it keeps on varying, so we need to keep that in mind also. 7 grammar rules to help you crack the GMAT sentence correction. Now, these grammar rules are going to make you have a clearer picture of what kind of questions are we going to have. Grammar rules basically हम सबको पता होता है, intuitive होता है. हमने एक sentence पढ़ा, the moment we read the sentence, we know there's a mistake in it. कुछ लोगों को ये naturally, क्योंकि उनकी English पढ़ के, they have an idea of what is wrong with the sentence. And sometimes you don't even know the reason what is wrong with the sentence, but you're still able to point out the mistake. In any case, having an idea of these grammar rules would definitely help you in doing the questions, and you would have an explanation to and a reason as to why you're choosing a particular answer, because you know that the grammatical concept that applies in that particular answer is what you need to have an idea of. So grammar rules, let's look at the first one, GMAT sentence correction. Rule number 1, subject-verb agreement. How many of us are aware of this term? We keep on forgetting it, but it's almost there in every other sentence. Who has an idea what is subject-verb agreement and could explain it? Yes. Excellent. So he gave us an example. He said that he says is the right form of starting a sentence. He says that he is very talented. If I say he say that he's very talented, do you think it is he and say make the right relationship? The pronoun and the verb, they are not agreeing with each other within a sentence. So there is a problem with the subject-verb agreement and with the sentence structure of the sentence. So isliye we need to make sure when there is a singular noun, the verb should be singular. Now this brings us to a question which often we tend to forget this, or we get confused, that when we add an S to a noun, it becomes a plural. But when we add an S to a verb, it becomes singular. So this is surprising. He say, इसीलिए नहीं हो सकता because say is a plural verb. He says. He is a singular subject, so says is a singular verb. So remember this rule that adding S to a verb makes it singular, not plural. Says is a singular verb. Any other example of a singular verb? Goes. Now, can I say we goes to the school every day? We cannot. We are going to say we go to the school every day, which makes sense because go is the verb that goes with we, the subject, the subject pronoun. So we is the plural subject, which is why we go to school. Go is the plural verb. I hope this clarifies subject-verb agreement, because now we are going to look at some more examples. My sister eats chocolate. Now this is grammatically correct. Why? Because sister is a singular verb, singular noun, and eats is a singular verb. So singular subjects need singular verbs and plural subjects need plural verbs. Then my sisters eat chocolate. Once again the same thing. Plural noun, so plural verb with it, so that the rule of subject-verb agreement is taken care of in the sentence. Then the next one. Ryan plays football. I cannot say Ryan play football because play is a plural verb and Ryan is a singular subject, which is why Ryan plays football. Then the next one. Ryan and Alan play football. Why have I used play? Because now there are two subjects, Ryan and Alan. Locate each verb in a sentence and confirm agreement with the subject. So this is something really important, that wherever you see a verb, make sure that it is coordinating, it is consistent with the number of the noun that is mentioned in the sentence. Ignore additive phrases. What are additive phrases? Let's take a look at the example. The leaking roof, in addition to the broken windows, has or have made the house difficult to sell. Guys, what do you think is the right form of verb that we can use here? Has. Okay, why do you think has? Why not have? They're mentioning two things over here. Why has? Yes, absolutely right. The subject is the leaking roof, which is mentioned first in the sentence, and the additive phrase, in addition to the broken windows, is obviously not the subject. So that is why, since they are focusing on the subject, we need to use a singular verb, which is has. Has made the house difficult to sell. Now, this is why I need to, when I'm going through questions or when I'm looking at questions with additive phrases, I observe that a lot of people tend to forget that there's an additive phrase, which is why they add plural or singular nouns, verbs by mistake. So sentence structure ko consistent rakhna is the key to making sure that subject-verb agreement is present. Then next, another example of an additive phrase. Janie, with her poodle limping behind her, walks to the dog park. Once again, the highlighted additive phrase does not make a difference to the verb because Janie is the subject of the sentence. So we need to use the verb, the plural verb, the singular verb walks. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. So let's move on. Has was the right answer. And another example of where we need to make sure subject-verb agreement is consistent is where we use collective nouns. Refers to an entire group of people, animal, things. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of examples of collective nouns. A bunch of grapes, a flock of birds. These are all collective nouns. Okay, so how do we use them and make sure there is subject-verb agreement in a sentence? It's whenever you're using a collective noun, it's almost always singular, except for a few exceptions. We'll take a look at that. Sometimes it's really plural. Now let's look at this sentence. The committee is meeting next door. I have used the word committee, the collective noun, which means there would be a committee of people, more than one. But I'm using the verb is instead of using are. Why? Because I'm using the collective noun. For a collective noun, make sure that you're always using the singular form of verb. Then the next one. The orchestra members are tuning their instruments. अब यहाँ पर क्या difference आ गया? Could anybody pinpoint what's the difference? Why have I used are here? Members. Now here they are specifying that although it's an orchestra, which is a collective noun, but they've also used the word members, which is why we cannot use the orchestra members is tuning their instruments. We need to use are tuning their instruments. तो जब हम लोग specify कर देते हैं उस collective noun में कौन सी चीज़ है, then we need to use the plural form of verb. All right, now the third example. The jury members are arguing among themselves. Once again, the jury members. If it was the jury is arguing among itself, then it would have made sense. But jury members, the word, since we have another noun here that is specifying that the jury has members, we need to use the plural form of verb, which is are. So another example where we do tend to get confused is when we say the number of dash and a number of dash. There is an example for this as well. The number of people we need to hire is 13. A number of people have written in about this subject. See, this is the difference. अब जहाँ पर the number of people use हो रहा है, वहाँ पर the verb is singular. A number of people have. Here the verb is plural. So keep these little rules in your mind because they would prove to be extremely helpful when you're doing the sentence correction GMAT section. Because ये छोटी छोटी चीज़ें होती हैं and trust me when I look at the pattern of questions I observe कि ये छोटी छोटी चीज़ें ही होती हैं जो help करती हैं आपको अच्छा score लेने में. So there's no harm in having a good grip and command over these rules. It's extremely important, I would say. So, because these are the basics of English language and you cannot skip them, you cannot overlook them, you need to have these and these skills in your mind so that you could do well on your test. All right, so let's move on. Here's a practice question that has subject-verb agreement involved in it. Okay, so I'm going to read it out. The article on the subject of Colombian drug laws published in The Economist this morning neither alludes nor specifically describes the methods that the police employ in the fight against crime. A. Neither alludes nor specifically describes the methods that the police employ in the fight against crime. Why should we not look at option A? Do you think it's the right practice to read option A? It's not, because it is exactly the same as the underlined portion. वो original portion ही है, so इसीलिए they just tend to confuse you when they give you the same option as an option A. Let's look at the second option. Neither allude to nor specifically describe the methods that the police employ in the fight against crime. C. Neither alludes to nor specifically describes the method that the police employs in the fight against crime. Neither alludes nor specifically describes the methods that the police employs in the fight against crime. And E, neither alludes to nor specifically describes the methods that the police employ in the fight against crime. Guys, what's the right answer according to your knowledge? Okay, you think it's E. How many of you think it's E? And how many of you think it's D? How many of you think it's A? Okay, so let's look at the right answer. It's E. Whoever said E, could you give us a reason why you think it's the right answer? Yes. Okay, that's definitely you're on the right track. The article on the subject of Colombian drug laws published in The Economist this morning neither alludes nor specifically neither alludes to nor specifically describes the method that the police employ in the fight against crime. Yes, absolutely right. ओरिजिनल स्टेटमेंट में भी एम्प्लॉय का वर्ड ही यूज़ हुआ है क्योंकि पुलिस के साथ वी नेवर यूज a plural form of verb. We always use a singular form of verb, right? So, plural form of verb, in police employ in the fight against crime. So you need to keep this in mind. Neither alludes to nor specifically describes the methods. Why are we using the word describes instead of describe? Because other options have describe in it. Yes. Exactly. Since the article is a singular form of noun, so we will be using the singular form of verb, which is describes. And with police, employ. Police is a plural form of verb, so singular form of verb, so we will be using, it's plural form of verb, we'll be using employ as the plural form of verb. So keep this in mind कि ये जो S का difference है ये हमें confuse करता है, लेकिन verb में ये exactly opposite rule है. Verb में, if you add an S, it becomes singular. And if you have no S in the verb, it's a plural. So keep this in mind. Is everyone clear about this question? Yes. A or D में? Yes. Which preposition? Could you please point it out? Which preposition? Yes. Why? Oh, okay. Yes, we also need to discuss why do we need to use the word to. हम लोग को to का word इसलिए use करना है because when you read the first part of the statement, the article on the subject of Colombian drug laws published in The Economist this morning neither alludes nor specifically describes. Alludes का word होता है alludes to what? Refers to what? Alludes basically means refers. So refers to what? In order to make that clear in the sentence, we need to use the preposition to. Okay? Because neither alludes nor specifically describes the methods. What does it alludes to? So, yes, vocabulary is involved here, but another thing कि वो किस चीज़ को describe कर रहा है उस चीज़ का भी second statement में clarity होनी चाहिए. What does it allude to and what does it describe? So make sure that you keep these little things in mind, little words that can make all the difference in your answer. All right. So this was an example of the subject-verb agreement question. We'll be looking at more questions related to subject-verb agreement, but let's look at the next rule, pronouns. What are pronouns, guys? Yes, words that are used instead of nouns. He, she, them, herself, themselves. There are a variety of pronouns, subjective, objective, possessive. As you can see, personal pronouns, I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Objective pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, them. Then possessive form of pronouns, my, your, his, her, its, our, their. हमें चीज़ें सब पता होती हैं बट हमें ये जो टर्म्स है ना पोजेसिव प्रोनाउन सब्जेक्ट वर्ब अग्रीमेंट ये हमें चीज़ माइंड में रखने की ज़रूरत है बिकॉज वी नीड टू हैव अ रीज़न टू जस्टिफाई आवर आंसर वी कैन नॉट जस्ट सिंपली select an answer on the basis of our intuition. We can't be doing that. So these rules come in handy when you have an idea of why you are selecting that particular answer. Okay, pronouns must agree in number with the nouns that they replace. This is really important. Pronoun has an antecedent. Does anyone know what is an antecedent to a pronoun? You can give me an example of a sentence if you want. Okay, pronoun and antecedent relationship is an extremely vital relationship for making sure the sentence structure is consistent. For instance, when I say, Adeline had her cup of tea. When I say Adeline, it's the antecedent. And what is the pronoun in the sentence? Her. Adeline had her cup of tea. So Adeline and her need to be consistent. I cannot say Adeline had their cup of tea, right? Or Adeline had his cup of tea. So this needs to be consistent throughout the sentence. So pronoun antecedent relationship makes sense. Antecedent usually is the subject or the noun that is there in the sentence for which the pronoun is being used. No ambiguity regarding the antecedent. You should not be confused कि antecedent को कौन सा pronoun refer कर रहा है. उस sentence में दो subjects भी हो सकते हैं, दो nouns भी हो सकते हैं, but आपका pronoun किस चीज़ को refer back कर रहा है, that is what matters. Okay, now here's a sentence example. Samantha and Jane went shopping, but she couldn't find anything she liked. Could somebody point out why this sentence is wrong or right? Yes. Okay. Exactly. Now, guys, the pronoun antecedent relationship is problematic in this particular sentence. As we read Samantha and Jane, which this shows us we have two nouns as subjects, but when we read it further, but she couldn't find anything else she liked. इसमें समझ ही नहीं आ रहा कि she किसको refer करे, Samantha या Jane को. It would have been much clearer if we had used the pronoun they, right? So that is why we need to clarify or we need to name the person once again. Samantha and Jane went shopping, but Samantha couldn't find anything she liked. Is that clear? Or you could change it to another form. Samantha and Jane went shopping, but they couldn't find anything that they liked or they liked. Is that clear, guys? So this is rule 2, pronouns, extremely important. Pronoun antecedent relationship, you would have so many questions in which you would be looking at pronoun antecedent relationship without even knowing कि ये चीज़ यहाँ पर सही करने वाली है, तो इस चीज़ को you need to keep in mind. All right. Another example of pronouns is when we use demonstrative pronouns. This, that, these, those. They identify or point to nouns. This and these, they talk about subjects that are nearby. That and those, they talk about objects that are not near you or they are farther away. Those and that do not necessarily replace antecedents. It and them fully replace antecedents. Let's look at an example. That's at the bottom. Okay, rule. No ambiguity regarding the intended antecedent. Number one, referring to things or animals, that and which. We already know that when we are referring to things or animals, we use the pronouns that and which. And number two, referring to people, who or whom. She is the one who baked the cake. It can't be she is the one which baked the cake or she is the one that baked the cake, right? Example of a sentence is, that house across the street is so adorable. Now this takes us back to the demonstrative pronoun that and those, farther away. The subject is far away from us, so that house across the street is so adorable. Keep these rules in mind, they would be really helpful. And that and those do not necessarily replace antecedents. We do not need to use that again and again in the sentence to keep it clear that the street is the antecedent that we are referring to. So this is about pronouns. Once again, we'll be looking at further questions which would give us a clearer picture of how we are supposed to go about this second rule of grammar. Rule number 3, modifiers. Is anyone aware of modifiers? What is this term meant to be about? Okay. Once again, we'll be looking at some examples. Dangling or misplaced modifiers. This is such a common mistake. Honestly, when we are writing, when we are in the flow of writing something, even when we'll be discussing our analytical writing assessment structure section of GMAT and GRE, you would observe कि जब हम अपने essays लिख रहे होते हैं, जब हम अपनी writing extracts लिख रहे होते हैं, तो तब हम वहाँ पर ये गलती करते हैं that we have misplaced or dangling modifiers in our sentences. Let's look how. Modifiers are words or phrases that modify or describe or alter or specify another part of a sentence. Here's an example. On her way home, Jane found a gold man's watch. On her way home, Jan found a gold man's watch. Gold man's watch. Now, isn't this confusing? The right form is, on her way home, Jan found a man's gold watch. Correctly placed modifier. So this is a mistake that we all tend to make. It's not just about que, you are very good at writing, so you would not make such a mistake. We all tend to make this mistake a lot of times. Another example. We ate the lunch that we had brought slowly. And then another form, we slowly ate the lunch that we had brought. Okay, which one do you think makes more sense? The second one, because of course, now dangling modifier mein, the thing is, कि always keep the adverb or the verb very near to the subject that you're referring to. For instance, in the first part, we ate the lunch that we had brought slowly. Slowly goes so far away from the verb ate. Slowly is an adverb. So this goes really far away from the verb, which is ate. Yahan par it's clearly giving us an idea that we slowly ate the lunch that we had brought. यहाँ ऐसा लग रहा है वो बात कर रहे हैं कि हमने उसको लिया, we brought it slowly. So this is again an example of a misplaced modifier. Then another one. Walking to the movies, the cloudburst drenched Jim. Now this is again a dangling modifier. What is the right form of it? Walking to the movies, Jim was drenched by the cloudburst. This makes sense. The cloudburst drenched Jim. Your first part jo hai na, walking to the movies. Who was walking to the movies? So we need to keep the subject, which is Jim, closer to the verb walking. So keep this in mind that the subject and the verb or the adverb should be as close as possible within the sentence so that the reader does not get confused and your sentence structure remains correct and consistent. Okay, the last example. When 9 years old, my mother enrolled in medical school. Does the sentence make sense? When 9 years old, my mother enrolled in medical school. When I was 9 years old, my mother enrolled in medical school. The first example rather gives us an idea that the mother herself enrolled in school at the age of 9, which is not the case. So keep this in mind that your subject and your verb or adverb or even the adjective that we use in a sentence, they should be as close as possible to keep the sentence structure consistent. Is there any confusion so far? Yeah, but the boy who's talking about the mother is not supposed to mention his age here. Okay. So, rule number 3, once again, modifiers, more examples. Noun modifiers, what kind, which one, how many, how much. Verb modifiers, where, when, how often, why, how long, how likely, and to what degree. Now, noun modifiers. A noun modifier should touch the noun it modifies. We look at an example. And a verb modifier should be placed close enough to prevent ambiguity. Example, coming out of the department store, John's wallet was stolen. Now, when I read this sentence, I imagine that John's wallet was walking because it says coming out of the department store, John's wallet was stolen, right? Yahi lag raha hai na? So, could somebody tell me what would be the right form of this sentence? I have not purposefully written it over here, but I want one of you to tell it to me. Okay. No, no, you're changing the entire sentence. Raise your hands one by one. Yes. Okay. You said John's wallet was stolen while he was coming out of the departmental store. We cannot change the original sentence so much because we need to stick to the original sentence as much as we can. Without modifying it too much, we need to just quickly look at what can we add and where can we add some things to make the sentence consistent and clear. Yes. Okay. You have entirely changed the sentence. Coming out of the departmental store, John lost his wallet changes the second part of the sentence completely. Yes. Okay, but then again, we are changing the sentence structure completely. Okay. Yes. Okay, but this usually does not happen when you have the options in front of you. This would never happen that they would change the entire thing for you or twist it up. Yes. Okay. Uh, Once again, was you said John's wallet was lost. You're changing the word stolen. Yeah, we cannot be changing it. Option A, we don't have any options for this question. It would remain the same. You think that this sentence is absolutely correct. Okay. When coming out of the departmental store, John's wallet was stolen. How are we going to change it? When he was coming out of the department store, John's wallet was stolen. We need to add the pronoun here that could refer to the second part of the sentence. When he was coming out of the departmental store, John's wallet was stolen. This makes the sentence clearer. Coming is the modifier. Was John's wallet coming out of the store? Incorrect. Possible solution to look for, correct the sentence reference, put a noun or pronoun into the first part of the sentence. This is what I did. When he was coming out of the department store, John's wallet was stolen. Is that clear, guys? Yes. No. There is only one subject, which is John, and that's the only person in the sentence. So he completely relates to John and to nobody else because there's nobody else in the sentence, right? So इसीलिए he का word add करेंगे तो बहुत clarity आ जाएगी sentence में and there would be no dangling modifier which is coming in the sentence. Is uh, I haven't. What is the question here? No, no, no. This is the explanation. Basically, this is telling us that this part of this sentence is incorrect. So this is confusing us. So that is why was John's wallet coming out of the store is actually, they have mentioned that this is confusing us, and it seems as if we are saying John's wallet was walking out of the store. So the right sentence would be, when he was coming out of the departmental store, John's wallet was stolen. Is that clear, guys? All right. So this is why I followed rule number 2. Put a noun or pronoun into the first part of the sentence. This is what I did. अब मैं यहाँ पर अगर लिख दूँ, when John was coming out of the departmental store, his wallet was stolen. That is also correct. But in any case, don't change the sentence so much कि second part भी change हो रहा है. Just add he to the first part, and that's about it. So let's. While he was coming out of this department store, John's wallet was stolen. Perfect. That could also be done. All right. So let's move on to another practice question related to modifiers. Wearing a huge sombrero, the sun's rays could not harm John. Sun's rays could not harm John, once again, the original option. B, the rays of the sun could not harm John. C, John could not harm the sun's rays. D, John could not be harmed by the rays from the sun. John could not be harmed by the sun's rays. Which is the right answer according to what you've understood so far? I hope nobody thinks it's A. Okay, so the right answer is E. Wearing a huge sombrero, John could not be harmed by the sun's rays. This is the right answer. Why not B? The rays of the sun could not harm John. Once again, we are putting a lot of distance between the subject, which is John, and the verb, wearing a huge sombrero, right? And in C, John could not harm the sun's rays. That does not make sense at all. So that option is quickly cancelled when you're doing the method of elimination. Then D, John could not be harmed by the rays from the sun. This is too overworded. You don't need to make it too long to make it clear. Rather keep the word choice concise and come up with the right answer. This is also another key. Avoid overworded sentences. Not that you should twist the meaning by eliminating important words, but make sure that the sentence statement makes sense and goes with what the question is asking for. Clear, guys? Okay. Rule number 4, parallelism. Something that is GRE's favorite and GMAT's favorite. They always have parallelism in a lot of their questions. You cannot not skip this concept, this grammar rule. Anyone who has an idea of parallelism and how we can make sure that it's maintained within the sentence structure? Yes? Okay, so you think it's that. Basically, that is the pronoun antecedent relationship and the subject-verb agreement concept. Parallelism is something completely different. Parallelism has more to do with the verbs that are used in the sentence. Sometimes you have a list of things and a list of verbs within a sentence. You need to keep the verb structure consistent. Parallelism is more about that rather than about the subject or the nouns mentioned in the sentence. Let's look at an example. Parallelism, similar elements in a series expressed in similar form. Exceptions, infinitives, to run, to ski, to think. Use to throughout or before first verb only. When I say let's just name someone. Ryan can go to school, go to the park, and go to the restaurant. I am using go to again and again to keep the sentence consistent. This is what is parallelism is all about. I cannot say Ryan can go to school, going to the park, and went to the restaurant. I cannot do that. So the verb structure, if it's a present verb, keep the structure consistent throughout the sentence. If it's a present continuous verb, keep the structure consistent throughout the sentence. Okay, ending is fully understood. Here are some examples in the white box. Let's look at them. I like to swim, to run, and to dance. Now this is correct. I like to swim, run, and dance. अब यहाँ पर you might get confused कि पहले verb के साथ तो to का word use हुआ है, तो सबके साथ क्यों नहीं हुआ हुआ? For the first, like we just read the rule, either we use to throughout or we use with the first verb only. Okay, so that is what you can do. But what are the exceptions and what are the wrong choices? I like to swim, run, and to dance. अब हम अपनी मर्जी से to कहीं पर भी नहीं डाल सकते हैं. Either it's in the beginning, before the first word, or it's with every verb. Then the next choice is I like to swim, to run, and dance are not okay. Once again, the person has added to only two of the verbs, and the third one is without to. So either add to the first one or to all of them. There's no in between, okay? So another example of a sentence. Bus cannot explain why robots exposed to radiation are able to function properly and why those not exposed to radiation are not able to function properly. Do you think there's something wrong with the sentence? Bus cannot explain why robots exposed to radiation are able to function properly. Okay, the correct choice would be Bus cannot explain why robots exposed to radiation are able to function properly and why those not so exposed are not. So this is a concise choice of words, making the structure clear and not making it unclear. The meaning is very clear from this sentence. The first part, and why those not exposed to radiation, is a repetition of the opposite, so we do not need to mention it in so much detail. And why those not so exposed are not is the correct choice. So this is parallelism. Another rule is comparisons. For parallelism, we're also going to look at a series of questions to understand how parallelism is used in a sentence, in questions. Rule number 5, comparisons. ये क्या होता है? Comparison is discussion of similarities or differences. Keywords as compared to, contrast, different from, more, less, like, similar, unlike. ये सारे words अगर किसी question statement में आते हैं या किसी sentence में आ रहे हैं तो इसका usage correct होना चाहिए. It should be very clear how are we supposed to use the right choice of words to make the comparison valid and clear. So other words that could be used as comparatives are larger, slower, higher, colder, and longer. Comparison must be logical, very important. Comparison must be ambiguity-free. Max dislikes broccoli more than his girlfriend. Max dislikes broccoli more than his girlfriend does. Which one makes more sense? The second one, because the first one seems as if Max dislikes his girlfriend. So we cannot use the first choice. We should rather stick to the second sentence. Max dislikes broccoli more than his girlfriend does. So this is the difference. अब does यहाँ पर add किया है, तो comparison is clearly understandable. So is that clear, guys? Okay, here's a practice question. Some anthropologists regard the early hominids' manner of walking as being less efficient than in modern human beings. A, as being less efficient than in the original answer. B, as less efficient than it is in. C, as less efficient than that of. D, to be less efficient than that of. E, to have been less efficient than it is in. Guys, tell me what's the right answer. How many of you think it's A? How many of you think it's B? C? Okay, A can never be the right choice because A is the original choice and it's wrong no matter what. So you can never say A is the right answer. Keep this in mind. I keep on doing this with you guys so that you always remember that A kabhi bhi nahi sahi answer hoga. So B or C, D. How many of you think it's D? Okay, and E? Okay, so let's look at the right answer. It's C, as less efficient than that of. Now, why this is the right answer? Some anthropologists regard the early hominids' manner of walking as less efficient than that of. First, we need to take out the word being. It is making the sentence overworded. We don't need to add it because regard is the verb that is used in the first part of the sentence. So we don't need to add the word being over here. As less efficient than that of modern human beings. We are putting into comparison early hominids' manner and the manner of the modern human beings. So for that, we need to keep this in mind that since two things are being compared, so we need to use the choice of words that is precise and keeps the sentence structure consistent. As less efficient than that of. Now let's look at B, why it can't be the right answer. As less efficient than it is in. Why not than it is in? Because manner of walking. Of is the preposition that has been used in the first part of the sentence. So it cannot be in the second part of the sentence. Once again, the sentence structure needs to be consistent. So B cannot be the right answer. Then D, to be less efficient than that of. Why is this not the right answer? Okay, manner of walking to be less efficient than that of. Once again, as का word comparison के लिए ज़्यादा बेहतर है instead of using to be. It does not make the comparison clear. Then E, to have been less efficient than it is. Why can't it be the right answer? Because to have been, we don't need to use this particular phrase to make the comparison clearer. As less efficient is the right form to be that could be used, and instead of making it overworded with E, we can choose the precise and concise choice of words, which is C. Is that clear? Okay. Rule number 6, verb tense accuracy and consistency. This really horrifies me, verb tense, because this, I think, is the perhaps the most difficult grammar rule that we all make mistakes, no matter what age we are in, no matter what kind of a degree we have in English, but we do make mistakes with this because verb tense accuracy, consistency, kahin par past, kahin par present ho jata hai. So we need to keep this in mind, how we can make sure that we are not making too many mistakes on this. So sentence correction questions will ask you to keep verb tense consistent throughout a sentence. Past tense generally goes with past tense. For example, okay, they have just given you an example. Sometimes, though, you might need to shift the verb tense if it's specifically required by a sentence's meaning. Now, guys, this is basically the key. हमें सेंटेंस को पढ़ के डिसाइड करना होता है कि हमने आगे उसमें वर्ब को प्लूरल वर्ब को प्रेजेंट रखना है, पास्ट रखना है, प्रेजेंट कंटिन्यूस रखना है, पास्ट परफेक्ट रखना है, वो हमें खुद डिसाइड करना है. So there's an example. We were cleaning up hurriedly when our parents suddenly arrived. What is wrong with this sentence? Yes, exactly. We were cleaning up hurriedly when our parents suddenly arrived. Although usually general English rule is that we cannot use two past tense words together, but यहाँ पर we were cleaning up hurriedly when our parents suddenly arrived. There's a distance between were, so we need to use arrived over here to make a clearer meaning out of the sentence. Okay, so the second part is absolutely right, and this is where we need to make sure that the shift in the verb tense is consistent with the original structure of the sentence. Okay, so here is a practice question. Since the website's ranking dropped last month, the site developers have been determined to update the content daily, and they are. I'm not going to read A, I'll start reading with B. Are determined to update the content daily and have been. Were determined to update the content daily and they were. D, have been determined to update the content daily and they do. E, had been determined to update the content daily and they have. What do you think is the right answer? Okay, how many of you think C is the right answer? How many of you think B is the right answer? Okay, why do you think B is the right answer? Any reason? Have been, you think have been makes more sense? Because in B, it says are determined to update the content daily and have been. That's the reason? Okay, how many of you think it's D? And how many of you think it's E? Okay, why do you think it's E? Okay. Okay. So the right answer is D. Let's discuss why it's the right answer. Since the website's ranking dropped last month, the site developers have been determined to update the content daily, and they do. First part, have been determined. What is it consistent with? Since the website's ranking dropped last month, the site developers. Now, this is an ongoing process. So first thing, we need to use have over here. Have been determined. They have decided that they need to update the content daily, and they are doing it in a routine. They have not stopped it. They are doing it on a daily basis. Why it can't be have been the first, the second option, B, are determined to update the content daily and have been. Have been का मतलब थोड़ा सा twist हो जाता है. They are doing it on a routine basis. So that is why we cannot use they have been, because this kind of gives us an impression that they are almost done with it or they're done with it. So C, were determined to update the content daily and they were. The first part of the sentence, since the website's ranking dropped last month, the site developers, they are doing it right now, right? So that is why were determined, वो तो पूरा sentence structure ही change कर देता है. Then D, have been determined to update the content daily, and they do. Now this kind of confuses us कि first part of the sentence में कोई ऐसा verb नहीं है जिससे हमें पता चल रहा हो कि we have to change it to the past tense or we can keep it as the present tense. So what we can do is, the sentence in itself is very clear. Since the website's ranking dropped last month, they're talking about last month, now they're doing something about it at this present time. So obviously, हम इसको past tense में नहीं रख सकते. We need to show it as a process that's happening in the present moment, which is why we need to keep in mind that it has to be with the present tense. Have been determined to update the content daily, and they do. They were does not end the sentence properly. Have been does not end the sentence properly in B, and E, had been determined to update the content daily, and they have. Once again, not consistent. Had makes the sentence wrong, and secondly, and they have, once again, leaves the sentence incomplete. So the correct answer is D, and the most appropriate choice to go with. We'll be looking at more questions as well to have a better idea. Rule number 7, idioms. Can you give me an example of an idiom? Yeah. बिल्कुल होगा. Underlined portion is basically you are able to identify what you need to correct. इसीलिए वो underline definitely होगा, because this is exactly the portion that we need to change. All right. Rule number 7, idioms. Could somebody give me an example of a nice idiom? Spill the beans, okay. Rule number 7 is about idioms. They are an expression, word, or phrase that have a symbolic meaning and conventionally understood by native speakers. Usually, idioms have a history behind them wherever they are formed. They have a reason why they are formed. There's a history to it. So idioms don't mean exactly what the words say. Let the cat out of the bag means to reveal a secret. So ये basically conventional phrases होते हैं जो पुराने ज़माने में लोगों ने बनाए होते हैं, and then they are used as idioms for in English language. They have, however, hidden meaning. Yes, this is what we need to keep in mind. They have a hidden meaning, and this is where your brain starts working. You get curious. Okay, what does this idiom mean? A clean bill of health, said when you examine someone or something and state that they are healthy, in good condition, or legal. A clean bill of health. When you read the phrase, you instantly get an idea this is about something in a very good condition. The president was given a clean bill of health by his doctors. Number 2, the company received a clean bill of health because it fulfilled all the safety requirements. So this is the category of health. Then another form of idiom, a lifesaver. This phrase is used to refer to something or someone that saves a person in a difficult situation or critical moment. Thank you so much for your help. You're a real lifesaver. So this category of idiom is basically referring to the concept of life. So that is why we can say that these kind of idioms are part of our English language. They could be used in a sentence as well. We will be looking at an example, a question as well later. Now, these are some miscellaneous tips when you're doing the sentence correction portion of the GMAT verbal section. Number 1, do not read answer choice A. By now, you guys have an idea कि please answer choice एक पे पढ़ने का time waste नहीं कीजिएगा. Number 2, do not change the intended meaning of the sentence. Extremely important. Like I said earlier as well, do not change the sentence structure so badly कि वो पूरा ही twist हो जाए meaning उसका, and do not try to change the meaning that the sentence actually has in a particular context, because we need to keep the meaning same. We just need to play around the words to make the sentence structure clearer. Then number 3, do not discount wordy sentences. This is important. When you have a very difficult question statement which there's a long sentence, don't try to make it precise in a way which changes the meaning of the sentence. Sometimes an overworded sentence is there for a reason. Overworded to मैं नहीं कहूँगी, but sometimes a sentence with heavy words or a long sentence does not necessarily mean that you need to remove out all the extra words. It might be important to keep the number of words over there, but you might need to change the sentence structure to keep the meaning the same. Number 4, simplify sentences by ignoring fluff. Extremely important. Sometimes we use the words, for instance, I'll give you an example. We are in the current era, we are progressing now. What is wrong with this sentence? In the current era, we are progressing now. Yes, we don't need to put the word now in this sentence. In the current era, we are progressing is pretty much good enough. So we need to remove the fluff, we need to remove the extra material, we need to cut down on that to keep the sentence structure concise and meaningful without making it long for no reason. So, कभी-कभी extra adjectives होते हैं, जैसे she is doing a very simple and easy question. Now, simple and easy are both the same things. You don't need to keep it so long. You need to just use a single adjective. Then adverbs. We don't need to use a couple of adverbs or maybe more to clarify the meaning. अगर एक single adverb use हुआ है जिसका meaning जो है clear हो जाता है, तो we don't need to keep the adverbs 2 or 3 in a sentence with the same meaning to make it longer. Appositive phrases. Phrases functioning as adjectives, phrasing functioning as adverbs. Now, these are also kind of phrases that are used within sentences that might be describing a noun or a subject. So please make sure that you're not using any extra detail that is not required within a sentence. Number 5, beware of multiple errors. Sometimes when we read a question, we immediately have this thing in mind कि अच्छा ये जो underlined portion है इसमें कोई एक ही जगह पे गलती, कभी-कभी 2 जगह पे भी हो सकती है, कभी-कभी options में to और and का word होगा और आप overlook कर दोगे. So please read the options very clearly, very carefully. Do not think that there's just one error. There might be a couple of errors at 2 places within the underlined portion. So keep this in mind. Number 6, do not worry about spelling. Yes, sometimes we do tend to have this feeling कि हमें spellings का नहीं पता या हम कोई गलती कर रहे हैं. तो spellings is not an issue because obviously this is not going to be what they are looking for. The people who are testing you, GMAT and GRE basically they are testing your language skills, your grammar skills. But of course spellings ठीक होने चाहिए, but गलती spellings की इतनी ज़्यादा matter नहीं करती है. Number 7, trust your ear to a certain extent. Now, what does this mean? Trust your ear. Can somebody tell me? Exactly. When you read out something, the moment you read it out, your brain automatically processes and it is able to identify the mistake. Sometimes you don't even know the reason, but it doesn't sound right when you hear it in your mind. So make sure you trust that intuition. You trust your intuition, okay? Number 8. Before selecting an answer choice, reread the entire sentence. We always we need to make this thing as a constant practice, a continuous practice, कि जब हम लोग पहले तो हम question पढ़ते हैं, फिर हम उसकी examples पढ़ते हैं. जब हम answer choose करने लगते हैं, फिर से एक दफ़ा अगर question को पढ़ लें तो हमारे लिए ज़्यादा easy हो जाता है, ताकि हम कोई mistake ऐसी ना करें जैसे sometimes there are multiple errors we do not overlook. We should not be overlooking those. So these are some tips that would prove to be helpful when you're doing your sentence correction questions. Okay. Moving on, we have some practice questions. Now, what I would expect from you people is that you point out what kind of a grammar rule applies over here and what is the right answer. These are the 2 tasks that I would expect that you guys are going to come up and explain come up with and explain me. Okay. Recently hopes that the European Central Bank will reach a deal to help Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates has nudged financial markets higher. I'm not going to read the first option. B. Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates have nudged financial markets to higher levels. C. Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets to higher levels. D. Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets to higher levels. And E, Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets higher. What do you think is the right answer? C and D are same. Okay, this might be a typo because Spain and Italy at cheaper rates nudge financial markets to higher levels. Okay, never mind. Just tell me the right answer. Okay, does anyone think that it's B, C or D, or E? Okay. Why do you think it's E? Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets higher. Okay. So you think they both make sense when they are put together in a sentence. Okay, let's look at the right answer. It's B. Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates have nudged financial markets to higher levels. Why it's the right answer? Recently hopes that the European Central Bank will reach a deal to help Spain and Italy first thing borrow at cheaper rates have nudged financial markets to higher levels. Now, when you read the sentence out, the first thing that you look at is कि higher का word जो है हम खाली use नहीं कर सकते. We need to use the word levels. Secondly, have nudged financial markets to higher levels. When you read the sentence, hopes that the European Central Bank will reach a deal to help Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, have ka word is important over here because this process is happening and the present tense form of have will be used over here. Nudge financial markets to higher levels. Why it can't be C or D? Because since they are the same, there's an error. Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets to higher levels. It can't be the right answer because here we are skipping out the right form of a verb that So, recently hopes that the European Central Bank will reach a deal to help Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates has nudged financial markets higher. Why E is not the right answer? Spain and Italy borrow at cheaper rates, nudge financial markets higher. Higher what? So add two higher levels is what makes sense. E is also an incomplete answer. D is not right because it's missing out the complete structure where you need to add a verb to make it clear that this is an ongoing process. So that is why C, D, and E are the wrong answers. A, of course, is not right. So we will select the option which makes the sentence structure clear. Recently, hopes that the European Central Bank will reach a deal to help Spain and Italy borrow at a cheaper rate have nudged financial markets to higher levels is what makes sense. Have. The word have is the key here. All right. Practice. Okay, could somebody tell me which rule is applied here? If you could point out one of the rules, the 7 rules that we did. Yes, verb tense accuracy and to some extent not subject verb because in the first part of the sentence there is no mention of a verb that goes with have. However, verb tense consistency is the right grammar rule that applies to this question. So we'll move on to the next question now. His co-workers praised both his determination and the way he paid attention to detail. A, and the way he paid attention to detail, obviously not possible. B, and also praised his attention to detail. C, and his attention to detail. D, they praised the way he paid attention to detail. E, also they praised his attention to detail. Guys, what's the right answer? Okay. Why do you think C is the right answer? Give me a proper explanation of that, maybe. You think parallelism is the rule that applies here? Excellent. You think that because the first part of the sentence says his co-workers praised both his determination and his attention to detail is what we are looking for. Parallelism and the consistency within the sentence structure. C is the right answer. Why not B? And also praised his attention to detail. First thing, ये sentence ko, it's making it overworded for no reason. And secondly, parallelism is not applied in this option. Then D, they praised the way he paid attention to detail. Praise both his determination, they praise, again, it doesn't make sense. Then E, also they praised his attention to detail. पहले हम पढ़े his co-workers praise both his determination, also they praise his attention to detail. I think this is a very easy question because इसमें जो options दी हुई हैं, they are pretty clear कि D और E तो बिल्कुल ही गलत है, right? So that is why C is going to be the right answer. Practice question 3. What is unique about these category is their relation to these things that are taken on to add to a being's natural capacities. B, I'm going to read from B. What is unique about this category is its relation to those things which are taken on. C, what is unique about this category is its relation to them things that are taken on. D, what is unique about this category is its relation to those things that are taken on. And E, what is unique about this category is its relation to those things that are taken on. What's the right answer? This is also not a very difficult one. Correct. It's E. What is unique about this category is its relation to those things that are taken on. The word, the noun, the pronoun those, and is its. Here we have the rule of possessive noun as well, possessive pronoun, because it's when you put an apostrophe in its, it is the short form of it is, right? So what is unique about this category is its relation to those things that are taken on is what makes sense. D does not make sense for that reason. C does not make sense because it uses the pronoun them, to them things that are taken on. So wo to C to bilkul hi it's the wrong choice. Then B, what is unique about those category is its relation to those things which are taken on. Once again, possessive form of pronoun is wrong, right? So is this clear, guys? The difference of apostrophe, basically, here they have mentioned that either they have used its in the options or they have used this its. This its is a short form of it is, right? So if you read it in option B, what is unique about this category is it is relation to those things which are taken on. That would sound wrong, absolutely wrong. So this is something that you need to keep in mind so that you have a clearer idea of what you are selecting as your answer. Okay. So which rule applies here? Yes, and to some extent the rule of pronoun also, because those is the pronoun that is being used, right? So that is why the grammar rule of pronoun applies here in this particular question. Practice question 4. Knowing that the area was prone to earthquakes, all the buildings were reinforced with additional steel and concrete. B, having known that the area was prone to earthquakes. C, since the area was known to be prone to earthquakes. D, since they knew that the area was prone to earthquakes. And E, being prone to earthquakes, which is the right option. How many of you think it's C and B and D and E? Could you give me a reason why you think E is the right answer, being prone to earthquakes? Okay, it simplifies the sentence. You have a good explanation. I mean, it makes sense that you are trying to be concise with the choice of words. However, you have to keep in mind that the sentence structure, the meaning of the sentence does not change when you are choosing the choice of words that makes the sentence shorter. So the right answer is C. Why it's the right answer? Let's read it out with the correct option. Since the area was known to be prone to earthquakes, all the buildings were reinforced with additional steel and concrete. Since the area, knowing ka word hame, because the area does not know. Area is a noun, but it's not a human being that knows something. So that is why since the area was known is what makes sense. Then was known to be prone to earthquakes. All the buildings were reinforced with additional steel and concrete. This is what makes the sentence structure clear. Let's look at option B. Having known that the area was prone to earthquakes. Who knows? Is there a mention of any person within the sentence? No. So that is why B is the wrong choice. Then D. Since they knew that the area was prone to earthquakes. Once again, the same mistake. Who knew? We are not mentioning any people or any people who are constructing the buildings or have an idea of the earthquakes. Then E, being prone to earthquakes. All the buildings were reinforced with additional steel and concrete. We're talking about the area here. We cannot eliminate that from within the sentence structure because we're talking about the area which is prone to earthquakes, not the buildings. Is that clear, guys? Okay, so these questions are not very difficult. However, the fact that when you read out the options, you do tend to get confused because the options are too long and sometimes they are very much similar. So इसीलिए ये थोड़ी confusion होती है. But otherwise, when you have a clear idea of the grammar rules and they all are in your mind, you realize कि गलत चीज़ कहाँ पर है. You are able to pinpoint that out. So keep all these rules in your mind. They would be really helpful when you're doing these questions. Which rule applies here? The grammar rule. Okay. Any other rule that you think applies? Not really comparison because you're not comparing anything. But, sorry? Come again? Okay. The rule that basically applies here is if you read the answer, since the area was known to be prone to earthquakes, the rule that applies is verb tense mostly, right? You need to keep that in mind, and the subject-verb agreement is also something that needs to be kept in mind. Modifier, exactly. A dangling modifier shouldn't be there. All the other options are making it a dangling modifier. So that is another rule that is supposed to be kept in mind when doing these kind of questions. Question number 5. Unlike other primates, which are born with fully formed craniums, a newborn human baby's cranium consists of 8 bones that take years to fuse together fully, allowing the brain to grow much larger during those early years. I'm not reading A. B, fully formed craniums. A newborn human babies have craniums that. C, a fully formed cranium, a human baby's cranium. D, fully formed craniums. A human is born with a cranium that. E, a fully formed cranium, the cranium of a newborn human baby. Read out this. Now, this is a long sentence question. Sentence statement is pretty long. So take your time and tell me what's the right answer. Okay, any other answer? E, okay. C and E. Nobody thinks that it's B or D? This side? It's D, okay. Who could give us a reason of choosing their answer? Even if it's D, B, C, whatever you've chosen, just give me a reason why you think that's the right answer and which rule are you applying here? Okay, and do you think it does not change the meaning of the original sentence? Okay. So you think C is the right answer because it's a concise choice of words. Let's look at the right answer and then find it out. D is the right answer. Let's read it out. Unlike other primates, which are born with fully formed craniums, a human is born with a cranium that, I'm reading the right option, consists of 8 bones that take years to fuse together fully, allowing the brain to grow much larger during those early years. So this, when you're going to read out all the options along with the later part of the sentence, you would realize which is the right answer. Let's read B. Unlike other primates which are born with fully formed craniums, the newborn human babies have craniums that. The thing that you need to look for is this It's not used correctly in this option B. Okay, so this article is not correct. Or an are articles, so we cannot use this article in this sentence because that does not give us the right structure of the sentence. Then C, a fully formed, unlike other primates which are born with a fully formed cranium, a human baby's cranium. This looks like the right answer somehow, but what is wrong with it? Yes, the repetition, mm, uh, we don't need the articles and again and again. Unlike other primates, which are born with a fully formed cranium, a human baby's cranium, this does not give us the right idea because when you read the later part of the sentence, a fully formed cranium, a human baby's cranium consists of 8 bones that take years to fuse together, fully allowing the brain to grow much larger during those early years. We do not need the article in two places, the same article. Okay, then E. Unlike other primates, which are born with a fully formed cranium, the cranium of a newborn human baby, why can't E be the right answer? Exactly. So we do not need to repeat the word cranium again and again. So fully formed craniums, a human is born with a cranium that consists of 8 bones that take years to fuse together fully, allowing the brain to grow much larger during those early years. Which grammar rule applies here? Yes. Hmm. You think that fully formed craniums, human is born with a cranium that? Okay. We need the article A with one of the cranium's example. We need it with one of them, right? To make the sentence structure clear. So we need, unlike other primates, which are born with a fully formed cranium, नहीं, which are born with fully formed craniums. ठीक है, क्योंकि primates is in a plural context, तो हम craniums की बात करेंगे. A human is born with a cranium, that is what makes sense because they're talking about primates, which is plural, and craniums goes with primates, and then a human is born with a cranium that. Now, human is singular, cranium is also singular. So somehow the concept or the rule of parallelism is what applies here, right? So this is what we need to look for. Now, 5 tips to help you crack the GRE sentence completion. GRE sentence completion questions are basically you have a fill in the blank, like a 2 or 3 lines long sentence, and you have to choose 2 words out of the options that you're given that make this the sentence clear and the meaning is correctly identified. So let's look at the tips and find out how we can crack the GRE sentence completion structure. GMAT में sentence correction था, GRE में you have sentence completion questions. So let's take a look at that. Tip number 1, don't dive in. Don't be in a rush. Read the entire text completion first. The reason for this strategy is that the first blank is often ambiguous unless you have read the entire paragraph. Sometimes there's just one blank, sometimes there are 2 blanks. So it totally depends कि आपने कौन सा वाला choose करना है, words की choice करनी है to make the meaning clear. So you should be reading the entire text completion first. First, read out the entire sentence. Then when you look at the options, you would realize that the words somehow, some of them have similar meanings, some of them have different meanings. And here you need to be very, you need to have an idea of how you're going to go about the vocabulary section of your, and how you're going to show your proficiency in vocabulary. So guys, these are the kind of questions जहाँ हमें थोड़ा सा vocabulary अपनी boost up करनी पड़ती है. Okay. So read the entire paragraph to have a clearer idea. Next step, breaking down the text completion. Text completions are sometimes a paragraph long, so it is easy to get lost in them. This happens a lot of times. A great strategy is trying to understand the big picture. Breaking down the paragraph in your own words, paraphrasing the paragraph will help you get a grasp on what the text completion is talking about. Then you are ready for step 3. Yes, so this is something that really helps. If you have understood the sentence, try to simplify it in your own mind. Break down the paragraph in your own words कि इसका मतलब जो आप खुद से निकालोगे, that would be the best way to tackle such a question, and paraphrase the paragraph within your mind. Don't start writing it down, of course, but try to paraphrase it in your mind so that you have an idea of what kind of words are you going to put in those blanks, okay? So break down the text completion within the question that is given. Tip number three, use your own words. Here we are on a familiar footing. Much like the sentence completions and the sentence equivalence questions, we want to use the strategy of putting in our own words in the blank or blanks. To do so, you must always justify your answers not just on the context, but some of the specific words or phrases in the sentence itself. Yes, so sometimes we need to use our own words. We want to use the strategy of putting in our own words in the blank or the blanks. Why should we do that practice? Because you must always justify your answers not just on the context, but some of the specific words or phrases in the sentence itself. Sometimes आप लोग जो words की options choose कर रहे हो, because you have to choose two options. So you don't need to make sure कि कभी-कभी words हम लोग confuse हो जाते हैं, हम two से ज़्यादा भी choose कर लेते हैं. So we need to make sure that we are choosing the two words that make sense within the context of the question, and they relate to the words used within the sentence. We look at an example question, and this would clarify कि कभी-कभी within the sentence जो original sentence होता है जिसमें हमने blanks fill out करने होते हैं, they have some keywords that give us an idea of how we can complete the sentence. So keep that in mind. Don't just stick to reading it out carefully, because that is not what we are looking for. We are looking for the blanks that need to be filled out. So don't just get lost in the statement of the sentence. Number 4, distinguish between restrictive and non-restrictive sentence elements. Again, something really important. We'll have an example of this as well. Restrictive clauses contain information that is necessary for identifying or specifying the nouns they modify. They begin with that or who if you're referring to a person. Non-restrictive clauses contain information that is additional, the additional part of the sentence. The nouns they are modifying are clear and defined even if you got rid of the clause. They begin with which or who if you are referring to a person. So basically, restrictive clause or restrictive element of a sentence or essential element of a sentence, there are two names for this, restrictive or essential. These two elements of a sentence are the important part of a sentence, the information that cannot be taken out from the sentence to make it understandable. We need that information. Non-restrictive or non-essential clause of a sentence is information जिसकी हमें usually ज़रूरत नहीं होती है, okay? So that is why we don't need this clause all the time. We can also eliminate it. However, it is just extra information which is given to us within a sentence. Let's look at the example. When I go running, I wear my favorite shirt which is really worn out. Incorrect. When I go running, I wear my favorite shirt that is really worn out. Now this which is really worn out is, what do you think? It's an essential or a non-essential, a restrictive or a non-restrictive clause? Okay. Yes, this is basically a non-restrictive clause. If the sentence was, when I go running, I wear my favorite shirt, don't you think that was pretty much enough? It was. Which is really worn out is a non-restrictive clause because it is starting with which, and it needs to start with which because it's extra information. So which or that का concept हमें अक्सर समझ में नहीं आता कि हमने which or that कहाँ लगाना है. So keep this in mind. Whenever you're adding extra information to a sentence, which is the pronoun that you're going to use. And that we use where we are adding information that is important for a sentence to be completed. Okay? So this you need to keep in mind. Tip number 5. Look for inappropriate uses of possessive nouns and pronouns. Let's look at an example. We've already discussed this, but let's once again make note of this. Recognize and correct inappropriate uses of possessive nouns and pronouns. Incorrect. The cat jumped on the wall and stretched its legs. Correct. The cat jumped on the wall and stretched its legs. Why? Because it's the one with apostrophe means it is. So it is does not make sense in the context of this sentence. However, the second sentence makes sense because it's is what we need to use here. The possessive pronoun. Is that clear, guys? Here's a practice question. Early critics of Emily Dickinson's poetry mistook for a simple-mindedness the surface of artlessness that in fact she constructed with such. What do you think would be the right choice of words? We have to use two words here. Yes, we have to choose two words here. Sometimes we get two blanks. Mostly we get two blanks and we have to put the two words in the two blanks in separate parts of the sentences. Here we are going to put the two words together. Which two words do you think are going to make more sense here? B and C. Any other choice? Somebody was saying something, craft and? Okay. Okay, it's okay. We don't need to be sure of the meaning as for now. However, we need to prepare ourselves for the challenge that's coming up with the GRE, because they test you on the questions in GRE test you on grammar, on vocabulary. Anyone else? Okay, early, sorry? Somebody was saying something. B and D. Okay, let's read out the sentence again. Early critiques of Emily Dickinson's poetry mistook for simple-mindedness of the surface of artlessness that in fact she constructed with such. Now, the critiques of Emily Dickinson's poetry, they did not really considered her work to be worthy of appreciation, is what this statement means. So the words that we are going to choose here are craft and innocence. Vexation, we don't know the meaning, but the meaning of vexation is to be irritated with something, to be annoyed with something. And cunning, of course, means it's clever, right? So that's why craft and innocence are the words that we need to use. Is that clear, guys? Let's look at another question. Dreams are dash in and of themselves, but when combined with other data, they can tell us much about the dreamer. These are easy words. Okay. Anyone? Sorry? Okay. When you read the question statement, dreams are dash in and of themselves, but when combined with other data, they can tell us much about the dreamer. Astonishing, okay. So when you read the second part of the sentence, but when combined with other data, they can tell us much about the dreamer. So this first part basically talks about something that is not pretty much clear, right? So the words that we are going to use could be, sorry? Harmless? Okay, I want one of the girls to answer this question, maybe. Anyone? Yes. Okay, and the other word? Okay. So anyone else? Okay. Dreams are revealing and inscrutable in and of themselves, but when combined with other data, they can tell us much about the dreamer. The right words are disordered and inscrutable. Okay. Here are the links that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to share them because they give you an idea of what kind of words are you going to get for the GRE sentence completion structure, right? So you need to make sure that you have a rich vocabulary. When I say a rich vocabulary, I don't mean start revising all the word lists that you come across, because you don't need to do that. What you need to do is that you need to have a good grip and a good command over the kind of questions that you're going to come across. Like I said earlier, practice as many questions as you can. Use resources available online and whatever books you have. Practice the sentence completion questions from there, sentence equivalence questions from there, and you would have a very vivid idea of how to go about the vocabulary-based questions, because sentence equivalence, sentence completion is mostly about that. So guys, these are some lists that you could go through, and they have a variety of words that are used in the GRE and GMAT, and you could have a very clearer picture of what kind of words do you need to be aware of when you're doing your vocabulary section for GRE, the sentence equivalence structure. So this brings us to an end of the sentence correction GMAT and sentence completion GRE, sentence equivalence GRE section. I'm sure you guys gained some information, some tips that would definitely prove to be helpful when you're going to do your GRE and GMAT English verbal section. You could always make good use of these tips, right? And keep this in mind that there's no one rule to go about all the questions. There are a variety of ways in which you could use. One person could be using one tip for a question, another person could be using another tip. So it totally depends on what you guys are going to, how you guys are going to decipher the information given within the question. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.